this is a very important game. HuK, the current division leader. Axslav, the division feeder.
Yeah.
At this point, I mean, he's sitting at statistically the worst. Now, Rain did lose 0-2, so point-wise, he's tied with Axslav. But Axslav has been losing series that I feel like he could win too. And Axslav's not a terrible player. In fact, PvP, he's actually been doing some pretty cool stuff for a while.
Remember his series against Mana?
Yeah.
That was awesome.
Very interesting.
I thought he was going to win that.
And
so it's unfortunate.
Yeah.
I mean, I think Axslav could have been off to a very nice start. Things would have been different. His confidence would have been a lot higher. But as it is, he's winless currently. Now, these two players...
he does have one win.
Against who?
I don't remember, but he does have one win. He does have one win.
Okay. That being said, he did meet up HuK last season, and the score was 2-1. It was really close.
Oh, yeah. Axslav beat TLO. That's what it is.
Oh. Really?
Yeah.
How come I don't remember those games now?
Well, you probably were cooking dinner like last night. But yeah, so you said he played HuK last season.
Week 2. No, that's going to bother. Oh, I do remember that game. Or those games, rather. Okay, never mind. So Axslav's good.
Are we past it on?
We're past it.
All right.
I had to think about it, man.
That's all right. Well, you said, just like you said, HuK has played Axslav in the past. Now, HuK's matchup is PvP. A lot of people says that he got far in GSL because of this PvP, or he gets far in MLG because he gets PvP. And that's not a wrong statement at all. HuK has phenomenal PvP. In fact, PvP is a lot about early game control and great unit maneuvering around the map. And HuK excels in those areas very well. Now, Axslav, his controls on the shoddy side of things, but he's got great ideas. I remember for a while he went Phoenix DT with observers and tried to make it work. And Axslav, we'll see if he's able to do anything. He's a red Protoss in the bottom right from Team Infinity 7. Up against HuK from Team Evil Geniuses, the blue Protoss in the top left corner. Now Axslav, he's the one trying to emulate HuK right now with his hero probe harassing the pylon. HuK used to do a lot of that stuff.
So annoying. I remember when I was a player, I would face against HuK and he would do this every single time. Pylon scout, pylon scout. I'm like, why are you pylon scouting me? Oh, to harass me. It's the most frustrating thing in the world, Frodan.
Now HuK, just like you said, is 2-0 against Axslav. Statistically, you can see that he's won on him against Dual Sight and Terminus, two maps that have seen a lot of changes over the past. I think back then Dual Sight still had like the gold going on, right? Not necessarily in NASL, but I remember at that time people were still having gold maps. And Terminus is actually making a comeback in some map pools.
I'm not a big fan of Terminus.
You're not?
I think it's not okay.
We'll have that talk later, but you have to explain to me why. But for now, we're on Odyssey, a map that's a little bit more interesting for PvP. I think Rotterdam was saying in the chat how he compares Odyssey to play out a little bit more like Daybreak, but a little bit more condensed, not as spread out in terms of the pathing, and it's kind of tilted at a different angle.
Yeah, I could see that.
So by that means, Daybreak means it should be a pretty safe PvP map if you want to do certain kind of expands. Robo Expand on Odyssey looks like it would be pretty safe, generally speaking, but at the same time, because of the large ledges across the main, Blink can be really good as well, and that's exactly what HuK's doing.
And it looks like his opponent is going Robotics Field attack. Now, it is 2 Stalkers against 1 Stalker and a single Zealot, but I think with good control, as HuK has, he should be able to bounce out of there, and there you go. I like what he's doing. 1 Zealot to one side, the other Stalker to another side, just making sure that at least one of them gets out safe. Of course, both of them are going to get out safe. Yeah.
Axslav opened up a very funky variation of 2-gate Stalker, but doesn't really get 3 Stalkers out. He's just trying to really use 2 Stalkers to be aggressive and squeeze. Now look at this from HuK, putting 2 pylons, realizing the Stalkers, the DPS, are not in the base, so he has time to get these pylons up. Now Warp Gate 4 HuK is finished. If these pylons finish, who knows what could happen. HuK could really do some tricky stuff. 1 pylon's about to finish, but he does cancel.
Whoa.
Oh, man.
50 minerals for all of that. He forces out another sentry, which isn't always the best decision. Not the best decision, or really the best option. That's really good. Obviously really good.
Sentries are pretty good. Axslav finishing up Warp Gate pretty delayed. We can see HuK does have some Stalkers out, much more so than Axslav. He's got 5-2 which matters all the more difference with Immortal not out. HuK's still taking his time. You can see Axslav really trying to go for that Immortal expand or Robo expand. HuK going to try to see if he can push the ramp. He can't really get there, but he sees 2 probes for the taking. And 2 probes, not a bad trade at all for no damage at all.
Precisely. And he's just going to keep trying to get up here. Oh, look at that. He shows Blink. Now, what he was trying to do is wait until that Force Shield ends and immediately blink up there so he gets vision, and then he can blink all of his Stalkers up. But he wasn't able to get it in time.
Great reflex. Axslav has a lot of sentries, though. Man, that's almost too much, I think, if he really wants to... I mean... When you put this many gas and sentries, it really doesn't free up your flexibility to do other things. Now, Andre, I realize that in our PvP build, or really your PvP build that you're doing, you go a lot of sentries, but if Axslav really wants any more flexibility, he has to be really cautious because sentries don't actually have a lot of DPS. You can see HuK's trying to expand as well, and he's just going to blink backwards in a very nice fashion, but you can see no real aggression attempt from HuK at this point. He's transitioning already, getting his own robotics.
I think sentries are actually pretty important when you're not going against robotics tech. And that's what happens because the power is coming out of the Immortal, so you have to make sure the Immortal is well positioned and well defended. So Guardian Shield and Force Shields are a must when you're going and engaging on your opponent. So I agree with it to an extent, but I also agree with you, Frodan. I think it is just a tad too many sentries, especially for the build that he's doing. I don't think he has like an excess of gas that he can do that.
HuK is really trying to capitalize on his mobility, making sure that Axslav never gets out of position. Axslav, you can see he's perusing around his perimeter to make sure there's no proxy pylons. And if he can be sure of that, he can do something. Now, he does have a Warp Prism out with no Warp Prism speed, getting his Robotics Bay now at 9.5 minutes into the game. But we can see that HuK has his expansion up much sooner, which gives him a lot more ability to power off his economy. You can see his Robotics Bay is also started, just a little bit delayed.
And it will be War of the Worlds. Colossus are inbound. Now let's see how much damage this War Prism can do. It took up a lot of time to actually trek across the map like this. Now it will be a positional tool, forcing the Blink Stalkers back to be a little bit more defensive. Relegate him to that defensive posture instead of being super aggressive. And we do have Stalkers against Immortals yet again. See if anything can come to this.
He can pick off a sentry, try to blink backwards. That's exactly what he's doing. He tried to see if he can pick off those sentries. You can see Axslav keeping that Warp Prism. I got my eye on it, Andre. Don't worry. I'll let you know if anything happens. But for now, we see Axslav has 2 Robos. One's about to finish up, and that will allow him to go for double Colossus, which is just a huge influx of gas, a huge blink into the main as well. Axslav out of position. This is a very good job by HuK. He has to be very cautious to keep that Observer alive, though, and he immediately moves it that way while blinking away slowly at the cost of 1 Stalker. But again, he got a good scout of what Axslav is doing, sees everything. He's up to double Robo.
That's obviously super helpful. And not only that, the Robos are pretty exposed to that front, so potentially he could get those Robos picked off. And look at this, he's actually going for the pylon yet again. Awesome job by HuK. And he'll get the last shot on.
Oh, he played a little bit too preemptive, thinking that he can get that last few shots off, and as a result was not able to. So HuK playing a very delicate balance. This is textbook HuK, though, really trying to play on the razor's thin edge. Axslav still not utilizing this Warp Prism. I mean, is he waiting for an opportune time?
I think so. I think he's waiting for his opponent to actually pull the trigger. Because think, if you only see these 5 Stalkers in here, you're not really going to do anything.
He's moving in now with the Warp Prism, going to drop it directly. Now there's sentries and Zealots and Colossi waiting back home. First Colossus also out for Axslav, trying to deal with everything. Zealots not really that effective. They're targeting other Zealots, and HuK immediately blinking backwards. Axslav, the big important thing, though, is that he does get a good scout of what his opponent's doing as well. And you see HuK also has his double Robo, so...
I don't think that made a lot of sense. Obviously, you just... I mean, the whole time you didn't tell your opponent that you had that out in the field, so keep it as a surprise. Make it so that your opponent commits to a position very unfavorable for a drop, and then go for it. But attacking there at the worst time, if you're going to attack while units are still at home and you know your opponent still has the capabilities of having units at home, do it when your opponent has the least amount. So do it ASAP. But waiting until 100 supply when they're only on 2 base, they have a lot of supply covering all over the place. It really doesn't give a lot of chances for this Warp Prism to do too much damage.
Axslav and HuK pretty even in the worker economy. HuK's slightly behind because Axslav's been spending Chrono Boost on his probes. And you can see HuK actually has been compiling a lot of his chrono boost, now really saving it for his robotics. At this point in PvP, you want to keep your chronos on your Colossus or Robo at all times, just really getting a good number count out. Now the big wild cards in this entire fray are the Immortals. If Axslav can get really good shots on the Colossus, who knows? Especially on low Colossus count. With a War Prism, things can get really funky, depending on how Axslav chooses to maneuver. But Axslav is really short on the Stalker count, and HuK does have Blink. You can see Axslav at this point going for his Forges, trying to see if he can get his upgrades. HuK doing the same thing, but he's just really focusing on his other upgrades. Now, Axslav throwing a wrench into things, getting a Dark Templar Shrine.
The Dark Shrine is normally for Archons. I don't think he will be making Dark Templars. His Archons are cheaper in gas. They're not cheaper in minerals, of course, but normally the excess is in minerals, not in gas. So I would assume that's going to happen. I mean, going Dark Templars against a person on 2 base, I don't think is going to be too successful. Although he could utilize it.
With the Warp Prism.
But there's an Observer tracking it, so that's kind of
shouldn't do too much damage on paper, but you never know. Funky things can happen.
Yes,
Thermal Lance is done for HuK, and he's compiling all of his units into the center. Warp Prism is immediately sniped. He does no longer exist, so that shuts down one option for Axslav, which he probably isn't happy about. Now, what's very interesting is if, for some reason, Axslav snipes HuK's Observer. HuK does have 1 Observer out into the field. Axslav has 2. Then all of a sudden, DTs become really empowered. So that's exactly what HuK tried to do one time at Home Story Cup against MC. And HuK could try to do, or Axslav could try to do it straight to HuK. HuK indicating he wants to take a 3rd base. Axslav really wants to shut down this play. But this is a very awkward spot for both players. Colossus can get really messed up with their AI movement, especially with that Turbine throwing a weird wrench into things.
Yeah, I don't think Axslav wants to fight there. I think there's no real potential to move in here that's favorable for him. He should just take an expansion and play the macro game. I mean, this is normally what we see in PvP. Both these players get a ton of Colossus and neither want to engage because defensive positions normally give the advantage, especially when it comes to Colossus.
Oh
so,
my.
I would expect him to just take a 3rd. Oh, nice job.
He tried to take a 3rd. The Zealots immediately started attacking to it, and Axslav had it on Shift Q, or Shift Command. And the Nexus didn't get canceled because he was trying to do everything else multitasking. So HuK picking a very opportune moment to shut down the 3rd. And all of a sudden, he has that pretty big advantage with his 3rd's almost done. Now, HuK is getting his Templar Archives. Archons are fantastic damage soak against Colossus if you can get a good, reasonable number of them. Regardless, now we're entering a really hard phase of PvP of if you ever attack, you have to be very well sure that that could be the attack that loses you the game as well as win it. So you have to make sure on every turn that you have a favorable position.
What is going on with these units?
Axslav splitting up his units too.
Yeah. Oh, this is not good for Axslav.
Ooh, he traps one of the Immortals as well.
Oh, gosh.
And just like that, Axslav donates some of his army. He's going to try to base trade with HuK. HuK immediately pulling back. If he kills off this force, Axlav's in a lot of trouble.
I don't know what Axslav is doing here. He needs to hightail and run, but I don't think he can. There's just so many units. These Zealots are going to be gobbled up as well.
Yikes.
Oh, my gosh. And remember, those Blink Stalkers can always give chase to those Colossus. The Colossus are already badly injured. That's why I'm not sure what this trade-up, or not even trade-up, but this... Oh, he's going to be cut off.
Oh, very nice. Axslav snipes the Nexus, but he's losing all of his Colossus. Look at the surround. No, it's a huge amount of his army supply. It's 125 to 60 from Axslav. He is running out of options. He did match snipe the 3rd, but it was not worth it at all. You can see Axslav is starting to jumble up his Colossus as well. He needs a good concave. HuK's got everything in his favor. And here comes the laser show. Axslav trying to get into position, but he's just going to tap out GG, realizing he has no chance in heaven or in hell or inferno or in nightmare. Hell, even in normal difficulty, he doesn't have a chance.
I have no clue what you're talking about.
Axslav, he had some pretty cool ideas, but again, just the splitting of the units was not what he needed at that time.
I think it was a mistake. That's what it comes down to. I don't think... I mean, I don't know... I'm trying to think of a strategy where that works.
Those kinds of strategies are good if your units are mobile, right? Because you can get in, you can get out, do your damage, and make sure to save the units. Colossus are some of the most immobile units you can possibly have in mid-late game PvP.
Especially with the terrain stalkers with Blink. I mean, there's not much you can do there. So I think Axslav just miscued all of his units. and he's like, oh crap, I have all my units in the top right. And he said, oh crap, he's pushing on me. I need to do this counterattack. And then we had a really, really silly game. So unfortunate finish for that game. But HuK is going to take the 1-0 advantage. And we're going to move on to game 2 after this. So ladies and gentlemen, that game was brought to you by iBuyPower. Of course, we love them. iBuyPower, go check them out, iBuyPower.com. After this, game number 2 between HuK and Axslav. HuK is up 1-0. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back after this.